The night I found my grandson shaking in the back seat of a locked car, something inside me broke in a way I can never fully explain. His tiny hands were cold, his face streaked with dried tears, and his eyes held a kind of fear no child should ever carry. That was the moment I realized this was not just a mistake or bad parenting. It was something much darker, something I could not ignore. My name is Eleanor, and for most of my life I believed my son Daniel would grow into a good father. When he married Melissa, I tried to welcome her with an open heart, even when her distant nature made it difficult. Their son Leo was the light of my life, a gentle, thoughtful boy who always clung to me a little longer than most children do. At the time, I thought it was just love. I had no idea it was also a silent cry for safety. That night, a neighbor called me, saying Leo had been left alone in the car outside a restaurant for hours. I drove there without thinking, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. When I opened the door and saw him curled up, whispering that he had tried to be quiet so he would not get in trouble, my heart shattered. I wrapped him in my arms, and he clung to me like I was the only solid thing in his world. When I confronted Daniel and Melissa, they did not react with guilt or panic. Instead, they were calm, almost irritated. Melissa explained in a cold voice that Leo needed to learn independence because a new baby was coming. Daniel backed her up, saying they were preparing him for real life. I remember staring at them, unable to understand how leaving a child alone for 3 hours could ever be called preparation. It felt like I was speaking to strangers. As the days passed, I began to uncover more. That night was not an isolated incident. Leo had been left alone in hotel rooms during family trips while his parents went out. He had been excluded from outings, told he needed to earn privileges that other children received freely. His bedroom had even been taken away to prepare for the new baby, and he was expected to accept it without question. The worst part was the way Melissa controlled him, warning him not to tell me anything or he would not be allowed to see me again. I started noticing changes in Leo that I could no longer ignore. His teacher told me he had become quiet and withdrawn, often falling asleep in class. He drew pictures of his family, but he always placed himself alone, separated from everyone else. Once he broke down crying when someone mentioned boarding school, as if he believed he was about to be sent away for good. These were not small signs. They were clear evidence of a child who felt invisible and unwanted. When I tried to step in, my own family turned against me. Daniel accused me of interfering and threatened to cut me out of Leo's life completely. My daughter Rachel tried to calm things down, saying maybe I was overreacting, but even she could not ignore the fear in Leo's eyes when she finally saw him. The house I once thought was filled with love had become a place divided by denial and truth. I knew I could not fix this with arguments alone, so I made the hardest decision of my life. I contacted a lawyer and began gathering evidence. Every conversation, every report from school, every detail of neglect was documented. Taking legal action against my own son felt like betrayal, but doing nothing would have been worse. I was not just a mother anymore, I was a protector. The court process was brutal. Daniel and Melissa's lawyer tried to paint me as an overbearing grandmother who could not accept boundaries. They questioned my intentions and suggested I was trying to control their family. Sitting there, listening to those accusations, I felt like my entire life was being judged. But then Leo spoke to a child psychologist, and everything changed. The evaluation revealed what I had feared all along. Leo was suffering from deep emotional trauma, anxiety, and a constant fear of abandonment. He believed he had to be perfect to deserve love. Hearing those words out loud made the room feel heavy. When the judge finally spoke, her voice was firm as she said that love alone is not enough when it comes with harm. She granted me temporary custody and ordered supervised visits for his parents. Bringing Leo home with me was both a relief and a heartbreak. He was safe, but the damage was real. At first, he would wake up at night, afraid I might disappear. He apologized constantly for things that were not his fault. But slowly, with therapy and patience, he began to change. He laughed more, slept better, and started to believe he mattered. Months later, something unexpected happened. Melissa lost the baby. The news hit the family like a storm. For the first time, I saw her break down, not as a cold and distant woman, but as someone carrying her own pain. Daniel came to me one evening, his eyes filled with regret, and admitted he had failed his son. It was the first honest moment we had shared in a long time. Therapy became a bridge for all of us. Daniel started to show up, really show up, For Leo, Melissa began confronting the trauma from her own childhood that had shaped her behavior. It was not a sudden transformation, and it was far from perfect, but it was real. Leo slowly started to trust them again, though he never let go of my hand completely. Even now, the journey is not over. Leo still has moments of fear and doubt, and I know those scars will take time to heal. But he smiles more often, and he knows he is loved without conditions. My home became his safe place, a place where he does not have to earn affection or prove his worth. Looking back, I realize how easy it is for neglect to hide behind the idea of discipline. But children do not need harsh lessons to prepare for life. They need love, safety, and the reassurance that they are not alone. I stood against my own family to protect that truth, and I would do it again without hesitation, because no child should ever sit alone in the dark, wondering if they matter.